Go.
Well, could America suffer from another possible civil war? In 1861, America was torn apart as the southern and northern states declared war upon each other, and were plunged into bloodshed as the nation fought to stay united and fought for the abolishment of slavery. In the science fiction novel Empire by Orson Scott Card, the red and blue states of the United States declare war on each other, and civil war breaks out again. Of course, it's a work of fiction, but it kind of got me thinking, could this actually happen? Political arguments today are seen as something as taboo. They should be skipped over or not even brought up in this conversation because they bring such heated discussions. Why is this the case? Because a lot of times politics are a sore spot for many people that are convinced that they are right no matter what. What does that mean? That person is usually considered an extremist. I believe that extremism in any form is the base cause for civil infractions in any country. I've always tried to maintain a moderate stance in my political views. How many times have you entered into a conversation about politics only to have the discussion turn into either a passionate discussion where you are engaged with the other person and you guys are talking about your shared beliefs, or have it turn into just a raging argument where someone's screaming at the other person? Today I'll try and impress on you the importance of staying away from stereotypes, prejudice, and extremes, as it kind of harbors dangerous thinking. Hopefully, stemming one of the taboo subjects of the day, I will inform you about the dangers of extremism and about how being a moderate will not only benefit you, but also benefit society as a whole. Well, what do we exactly have to fear from extremists? Some of the most controversial groups in history are seen as extremists. The Ku Klux Klan, the Nazi Party. In World War II, an estimated 50 million people lost their lives because of the extreme beliefs of one person. Al-Qaeda is another extreme group. 9/11, the victim total was 2,974 people, all because someone had an extreme or radical idea. The dictionary states extremism is a person who goes to extremes, especially in a political matter, or supports or advocates extreme doctrines or practices. Many terrible realities have been carried out in the name of extreme belief. Where do we get these ingrained values, beliefs, and ideas? A lot of us grew up this way. A lot of you people see your political views as your parents did. You are raised Republican, you are raised Democrat. And so a lot of your voting, especially when you're young and you don't really research the topic, you're going to vote how your parents vote. You're influenced by the people that are raising you. Oscar Wilde is quoted that a man who does not think for himself does not think at all. And so I would urge everyone, you can start from someplace, and that's probably a good place to start, but at least research the topic before you go off. How many of the responses that people have in these heated discussions or arguments are more programmed or just tuning out? And that's another point. And Nietzsche said that extreme positions are not succeeded by a moderate one, but by a contrary or extreme position. And so that normally means that everyone will have an argument, but instead of coming back with a retort that's more moderate and that is well thought out, you will retort with a position that's more extreme than the other. And so you are in exact opposition to the other person. Could there really be a conflict from something as simple as being a Republican or a Democrat? Wars and attempted genocide and killings have been done for much less than just political views. Civil War, again, people were discriminated against just because of the color of their skin. It had nothing to do with what they thought, and just how they looked. And that's everywhere. People, there's a lot of bigotry in the world. That's a sad truth, but it is the truth. Republicans and Democrats by nature are different, and they're constantly at odds with each other. Republicans favor a capitalist government that is more rooted in conservative ideas. This means that big business is more of a Republican thing. Large companies, people started out small. They also want, like a conservative background, so that means that pro-life for the most part and stuff like that. Democrats lean towards, and I hate saying this word, but socialistic. It's like a government that's more held up by the government. Government-funded programs. They're also they favor liberalism. That's that's pro-abortion. And I'm not saying either one are right or wrong. It's your personal beliefs that are at stake. And so, Fatos Nano, he stated that if we follow traditional ways of thought, there will always be traditional enemies. Extreme circles on both sides will find causes to give rise to problems. So, he's basically saying that there will always be problems because people think traditionally instead of thinking for themselves. And so these radical groups will have leaders. The Holocaust was an atrocity that had nothing to do with political views, but was an attempt to murder a race. Adolf Hitler was in charge of that. He was seen as an extremist. Between 11 million and 17 million people were exterminated because they were Jewish. No other reason. Hitler believed in his superior race, the Aryan race, and all the people had to pay for it. Modernism is a view that can help keep judgments clear of prejudice and program dogmas. Moderate ideals can not only turn away strife, but allow for more objective decisions. Many people argue that being a moderate, it means that you have no backbone, you have no guts, you have no real conviction. People argue for their causes because what they think is you're wrong, you're immoral, you have nothing to offer because you're a moderate, you're just a middle ground person, you're Switzerland. What if the cause is immoral, but people put, a label on it, like liberty? Where do we draw the line where what's right and wrong actually matters, no matter what, the poster says? Oscar Wilde, I liked a lot of his stuff, and he quoted that patriotism is the virtue of the vicious. So people have used their beliefs to inflict pain on people just because they said it was a noble cause. Wikipedia defined being a moderate as a definition as a relative term, since the position considered moderate depends on nature of two or more competing ideologies that the moderates are trying to reconcile. Moderatism is a hope for a more unified and accepting society. As history shows, some of the most awful events were the handiwork of extremists. Being an extremist does not mean being a terrorist. It simply applies to having convictions on a subject that can tolerate no other outcome. Beliefs are a wonderful thing and should be as individual as the person to whom they belong. When we begin forcing our beliefs on others, or become too arrogant to look at something in another way, we become narrow-minded, and that can lead to being an extremist or a radical. While this work of fiction started this whole topic for me, I look around and I see a growing rift in how the media is portraying these two parties. And a lot of times people, they just don't like the other one. You're a Republican and I'm a Democrat, and that's it. That's the line. This rift is growing economically, religiously, and politically, and it's estranging fellow citizens from each other. If the moderate movement had taken place in 1861, there might have not been a need for a civil war that would have possibly saved the lives of close to 600,000 Americans. Abraham Lincoln said, "The world had never known a good definition of the word liberty, and the American people just now are much in want of one. We all declare for liberty, but in using the same word, we do not mean the same thing. With some, the word liberty may mean for each man to do as he pleases with himself, and the product of his labor, while others, the same may mean for some men to do as they please with other men, and the product of their men's labor. Here are two, not only different but incompatible things, called by the same name, liberty. And it follows that each thing is the respective party called by two different and incompatible names, liberty and tyranny. I call for everyone not to close their mind to outside ideas, not to become so close-minded in thinking and narrow-minded in other people's arguments. In America, we aim to end racial intolerance and religious persecutions. Why then can we not stand united as a country of two different political standpoints?" Thank you.